Welcome back to the Soundtrack of Self podcast. I'm your host, Paulina, and today we're having a little bit of a different scenery if you have tuned in into the visuals. So I started working a new job not too long ago, and I have an office to go to. So my former job was a permanent home office job. So this is my former home office space, and I'm trying to reconstruct it right now into a podcast / music workspace. So here I am trying out new things. Also, I'm holding the microphone instead of having it set up. So we will see how that works. I'm super excited. I'm in kind of a really good mood today. I can't really tell you why. It's super weird, but I'm in a good mood. Maybe it's because yesterday I took a whole day off for myself. I did not go outside. I must admit, I do not like to not go outside, like to have days where I don't go outside. But yesterday was a day where I was just like, since my new job, I work all the time. That means I have to go outside all the time. And that means I'm barely even home. So yesterday I was like, okay, I want to spend this time, be inside a little bit. And yeah. Today, I feel re-energized. Probably that's why. But anyways, today I wanted to talk a little bit about myself. I wanted to talk a little bit about me as an artist. Especially though, I wanted to talk about the creative process, how I deal with, having phases where I'm not really creative, I would say. Not as a creative block, but more as just taking a little break, I guess you could call it. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that, go into depth into that. So even if you're not creative, maybe if you do some other creative work, that could also be interesting for you. Other than that, I invite you, as always, to listen and to have a good time. So I'm an artist. I make music. I produce music, I write music, I perform music. So I do a good spectrum of music, different things such as singing, rapping, producing, mixing, mastering, and recording. I would say I'm still learning about a lot of things. To me, it's a permanent learning process when it comes to anything. My music, my personal life, my work life, it's a constant progress and process. I wouldn't say just because I have graduated music college as a singer, I am a singer now and I don't have any more to learn about singing. I would say that, I feel like my voice is also growing even with the age. So my singing is a lot different than it used to be when I was 17. So now I'm 28 and I do feel like my singing is a whole lot, I would say, more mature, and it just sounds like, even though I haven't practiced as much as I did when I was 16, 17, and 18, I have really went in when it came to practicing back then. So what happened was when I was in music college, I used to wake up at like 5:30. I used to get breakfast at 6, and then I used to go to school at like 6:30, 7-ish. And before class started, and that was almost every day, before class started, I was already practicing, rehearsing, or studying. Most of the time I was just practicing. So I used to do that because I didn't feel like I was developed enough in my eyes to have me sound like I wanted it to sound. I guess it's a little bit hard to explain, but I had a certain vision of how I wanted to sound. And then when I used to make mistakes, I was really trying to get to a point where I don't make mistakes. Bottom line. And I came to realize that this has really, really worn me out as a musician. Though it was really good that I practiced so much, getting up every day, and very disciplined though. Very disciplined, getting up, practicing before class, even most of the time, even after class, until I started to, be like 17 and a half, I would say. I started to go out and party and drink and stuff. So that practicing side became a lot less relevant. So, but until that point, I have been really disciplined, and it has gotten me somewhere too. Like my grades were really, really good, other than music history, because when it comes to practical things, I'm like super, super good, I would say. But when it comes to theoretical things, I'm really not that great. Like music theory, or may it be music history, may it be jazz or classical music history, I guess I wasn't really invested in it. I wasn't like, oh, that's necessary for me. Though these days I'm really thankful that I did study a little bit. At least I was attending the classes and it was good. But at the same time, it was like, I wish I would have, studied a little bit more, because I did all the practical and, it was fun to do. But the less fun things I did not do. So this is how it was. But anyways, to get back to the discipline, it was really, really good. Getting up in the morning, practicing before class and also after class. It was really, really good. However, I was practicing and practicing and practicing because I wanted to get it right. But not because I felt like I had to get it good for the exam, but because I wanted it to sound right to my ears. And I think in a previous episode, I have talked about creative blocks, and this is what kind of was the root of my creative blocks, because I always felt like I haven't done it right. And then I used to beat myself up about it. I was like, you can't get this part right. This is like the 10th time you're practicing this and you still haven't gotten it right. It's a lot of negative self-talk that I had, or that I was doing to myself. And that has ultimately caused me to kind of have a creative block in the long run. When I had it, it was really difficult for me. I fell into depression and whatnot. And so these days, I do things a lot differently. So my progress when it comes to writing songs and when it comes to mixing and mastering songs is a lot different than from what it used to be. My learning process now, when it comes to learning something new, is like, well, it doesn't have to sound perfect. I make mistakes. I practice it as much as I want to get it to sound like how I would be content about it, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So if there is a note that I really didn't hit the right way, and it's just slightly different, but it's still the right note, but it's slightly different from what I wanted to hear or sound like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's like, okay, well, the rest sounds good. So why would you hold yourself up about that one note that wasn't how you imagined it to sound like? So overall, my process now is more like I just feel like I'm more free in my work. I'm more creative, and it makes me feel really secure in what I do. So back then I used to beat myself up over little mistakes that I made during practicing and whatnot. And I feel like that has made me really insecure. Though, yeah, perfectionism isn't really a bad thing, but it becomes a bad thing if it hinders you. So this is what happened. And the creative blocks, like I said, in my opinion, my creative blocks came from my perfectionism, trying to make it sound like I wanted it to sound like, but then never getting to it. And then first, never dropping the music because I wanted to sound a certain way. and then it would keep holding me back from dropping music. And then on the other hand, it would really block my creative process in the long run, because at first I'm like super creative and I have ideas and I practice it and I record it and whatnot. And then after some time, it's like, I can't get it to sound right. So I'm gonna just leave it. And then that would demotivate me to the point where I'm just like, I don't even have any more ideas because I can't get that right. So how am I supposed to get the next thing right? So this is kind of like the whole dynamic. Today, when I don't make music or I don't feel creative about it, and by the way, hold on, let me just say this real quick. So when I did suffer from a creative block, I used to beat myself up over that as well. So I used to beat myself up over not getting it right, which would cause me to have a creative block in the long run, then having a creative block and then beating myself up one more time because I have a creative block. And so it was like a whole, negative spiral of things. And so these days, what I do differently is first of all, I'm not trying to get it to sound perfect. Like I said, if it's not perfect, if that one tone is still the right tone, but it doesn't sound like I imagine it to sound like, but the rest sounds good, well, that's all that matters. And so today I'm less strict when it comes to that. Don't get it wrong though. I still want my music to sound good. I still feel like I'm perfectionistic in a way, but not in a way that it hinders me. So the second thing is, whenever I do get uncreative and I do feel like, I don't have that spark right now, I don't have that creativity flowing, I don't have that motivation for creativity right now, then that's okay. I give myself space and I give myself time. And guess what? That's the funny thing. Guess what happens? So I give myself space, I give myself time, and I don't beat myself up about not having it. So it's like, okay, well, you're just not creative right now. So that's cool. Like if you feel like you want to watch Netflix all day, do it. If you feel like you want to go outside and, take a walk and just do yoga today, even though in your head you want to be creative, in your head you want to do things, you want to create things, but you don't feel like doing it, you can't, you're not really in that right space right now, don't do it. You don't have to, So I feel like creativity, yes, there is a certain discipline you have to have if you want to really be consistent, but it depends on, are you disciplined with your creativity? Because with creativity, my personal opinion, with creativity, there is no being disciplined, because you cannot determine if you will be creative today or if you will be creative tomorrow or not. Creativity is just there or it isn't. But you can do things that actually support your creativity. And what's that? In one of my previous episodes, I talked about fight or flight and survival mode. So typically, when you are in a survival mode or in a fight or flight mode, then you are less creative because your head doesn't have space to be free, to be creative. It sees everything as a threat. So this is why being creative is about giving yourself space, giving yourself time, and feeling safe again in order for your creativity to flourish again. I know it sounds a little bit woo-doo, but it's not. It's basically, if you suffer from a creative block right now and you feel like, oh, I do want to make music, I do want to do something, I do want to make art right now, I do really want to, but I can't, it's not flowing. Number one, don't beat yourself up about it. Number two, give yourself space and time. Maybe your body has been in a fight or flight in a survival mode for a long time. And maybe right now your anxiety is kicking just when it comes to your personal life, maybe your work life. Like really try to reflect on everything that is happening in that moment. Try to see, how is your relationship? How are your friendships right now? How is your relationship with your family? How is your relationship with your work right now? Reflect upon it and see. If you find that, hey, there is something that is like, has been going on, that has been bothering you about a certain person or your job maybe, then yeah, that could definitely be something that hinders your creativity because you feel like you're in survival. Stress. Basically, it's stress. When you're stressed, creativity will most likely not flow. At least not with me. I'm that person, and I have noticed that over the years. I'm a person, when I'm very stressed, I try to take my mind off of things by working on music, but then I never really record it. Like I can write, but I cannot really record it because I beat myself up over it, and it's just like, and then it stops the creativity, so it's like, it's not there. And then I beat myself up about it again. I used to. So like I said, these days is quite a bit different with me. I give myself space and time. When I feel like today I don't really want to do anything, today I feel like I need some space, I give myself that space. And guess what happens? I kid you not. This has happened multiple times. And I just started this process probably like half a year ago, where I give myself time and space when it comes to my creative process. And when I come back to making music, I feel like I'm touching it for the first time. I feel so passionate about it. It's incredible. It's like, so usually when I do have those phases where I don't want to make music, or when I feel like there is no creativity there, I'm not really motivated. I'm not really that I'm not motivated. It's just like, I don't really feel like, doing it. And sometimes I force myself to, and then I notice nothing good is really coming out. So I'm just like, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to leave it alone, give myself some space, and then it's going to be okay. And so those phases, they can, I don't know, go from a week to like 4 weeks. There have been times where I haven't gone to the studio or made music for like 3 or 4 weeks. And when I say make music, I'm not saying like I don't sing when I'm like listening to music. I do still sing, and I do still, write down some lyrics that pop up in my head randomly. Sometimes it happens. I just had a conversation the other day with my colleague. I was like, sometimes I dream, and then in my dream, I have a certain melody or maybe a certain lyrics. And then when I wake up, I hope to not have forgotten it. And then I wake up, and if I still remember it from my dream, I write it down immediately. Happens not too often. I feel like it's a beautiful thing, but it happens. And so sometimes even when I have phases where I'm not really creative, but there are certain little moments that pop up, I catch them. So, and then when I come back from having this little pause from music and creativity, I listen to the songs that I've created. I listen to the songs that are still in process, and they sound like the first time I recorded them. They sound so beautiful. And I love that. So now for myself, I know, hey, it's not that bad. If I need a pause, if I need a little break, then it's just a pause. It's just a little break. It's not the end of the world. It's not that I'm never, ever going to be creative again. It's not that I can never, ever create music again. That's not it. It's just I need a little break from things. I need a little pause. Or maybe there's just a lot going on right now, and my mind can't really be creative right now. Because like I said earlier, that's a thing. Living in survival mode can hinder your creativity. So try that. As an artist, try really taking a break and being kind to yourself, being compassionate. That's what it is about. Be compassionate with you and your creative process, because those breaks that you have in your creative process are also part of the creative process. The creative process doesn't mean that you're creative nonstop all your life and you write a song and then you sing and then you rehearse, you practice and you do this and you do that. And you have to do all other things maybe too. It's not about that. The creative process is everything. It's about what you start. It's about where you continue. It's about the breaks in between. It's about the goals. It's about reaching them. It's about not reaching them. It's about coming from things that you have practiced for. Let's say you wanted to have, or you attend a competition and you didn't win the first prize. It's not the end of the world. It just means that, hey, you practiced and you worked for this competition to get the first prize. You didn't get it. Don't beat yourself up over it, because that can give you insight of how you can continue from there as well. So, a lot of talking right now. I forget to breathe sometimes. I feel like I'm talking so much I forget to breathe, but I was really in my flow. But yeah, this is how I see it today as an artist. The creative process, it's the work, it's the breaks, it's the pauses, and it's the goal reaching too. And even if you don't reach your goals, it's part of the creative process as well. You just have to let it. You just have to let it be part of the creative process. Because if you don't let it be part of the creative process, it won't be. It's the same way with, let's say you experience something in your life. Let's say a heartbreak. You experience a heartbreak in your life. You can either take that as like a defeat. It's just like, all right, I'm never ever going to date again. I'm never ever going to open myself up to the world or to people, to relationships. I'm never going to love again. Or you can take it as like, well, that was, I know in that very moment it's probably a little different, but you can take it as, well, that was something that I had to experience in order to get where I'm going to get. So, like I said, in that very moment when you experience that heartbreak, most than likely it's not easy to look at it so objectively and be like, you know what? That's just part of the process. That heartbreak was maybe supposed to happen. Maybe that was supposed to teach me something. And you can always find something to learn from. Always, always. Like, I've met people in my life and I really couldn't stand them. I don't hate people, but some people I can't stand them. I'm just like, what kind of person are you? Like, this is what I'm thinking. It doesn't happen often. And then back then, I never questioned, I never asked myself, what can I learn from them? They may have something I can learn from. But today, I do see it that way. There may be people that I meet that I don't agree with. People that are not on my level, like I cannot have a conversation with them because they disagree with everything. So it's making it really hard talking to them because they disagree. You could say the most factual thing, they would disagree with it. It's very hard talking to those kind of people, right? But even with those kind of people, I'm asking myself, they have to have something that I can learn from them. They have something. I don't know what it is, and I can't stand that person right now. I really don't like them, and I don't have to associate with them. They don't have to be part of my life for a reason, but they may really have something that I can learn from. What is it? I'm drifting off a little bit from the creative process here. What I'm trying to say is, even when you have the creative process with the breaks and with the defeats, when you feel defeated, you work for something and it didn't work out and whatnot, is something you can take and learn from for your continuous process. But it's always a process if you let it be. Like I said, you can look at it as defeat, be like, okay, I don't want to do this no more. This is BS. You can also look at it as like, okay, what did happen there that I can learn from? And also give yourself time. You don't have to think like that in that exact moment when you're full of emotions, when you're full of disappointment, when you're full of sadness or anger. You don't have to think like that in that moment because you're just human. You have those feelings and they're totally legit. So it's like, give yourself time, give yourself space to really feel those feelings. Think what you think about, certain situations or certain accomplishments or not accomplishments. But then in the aftermath, when you do reflect, make sure you really see how things are objectively and try to understand. This was not a defeat. This was not meant here, or this was not meant for me to stop doing this. This was not meant for me to stop the whole creative thing. Music's not for me. This is not for me. I don't want to write. I don't want to sing. I don't want to rap. That's not for me. Though you may feel like it. And I get it. I get it. I'm an artist. I have those moments too. But then give yourself some space, give yourself some time until you're level-headed again. And then try to understand that situation where you felt so defeated. What did it teach you? Did it teach you to get your ass back up and do it again? Or did it teach you to take a break? Because sometimes you are running and running and doing, but you're not giving yourself enough time to actually take a little pause, step back for a second, and give yourself some fresh air. Because sometimes we need it. Imagine you are sitting in an exam for, let's say, 12 hours. Let's say you are sitting in an exam for 12 hours. Let's just imagine an exam takes 12 hours. I don't know which exam could take 12 hours, but just imagine. And imagine you're sitting in a small room and you're focused. You're in a small room. You're so focused on the exam. You're so focused on getting everything right, everything you have learned, everything you have worked for. Now is the time to put it on paper for the exam. And the first hour may be okay. The second hour may also be okay. And the third hour, you notice, okay, your concentration is lacking a little bit. Just like, okay, hold up. Like, I'm working here, but like, I studied for this. Like, why is it taking so long for me to get the answers? And then after the fifth hour, it may be even more difficult. And after 12 hours, you may feel defeated because you've been sitting in a small room, focused on this one paper, not doing anything else, not taking any breaks, no bathroom breaks, no fresh air breaks, nothing whatsoever. Imagine you could have taken all the breaks that you needed in order to come back with a fresh mind. Let's say you needed a lunch break. I took a lunch break for an hour. Maybe you needed another 30 minutes. Maybe you needed 15 minutes in between when you felt like you was feeling a little bit overwhelmed. You was like, okay, I'm gonna need to take a break right now. And then I'm gonna step outside, come back and take it slow again. Imagine you're in this 12-hour exam and you can take all the breaks in the world. And then you write the exam. You can come back with a fresh mind each time you take a break. So what I'm trying to say, bottom line, I don't know where I got this analogy from. It just popped up in my head. But imagine you're sitting in this room, writing this exam, 12 hours, no breaks. And then at the end, you just feel defeated. You're just like, I tried my best, but I don't feel it was good. And then imagine you took the test, 12-hour test with all the breaks that you needed. And you're like, you know what? I did my best. I came back. I tried it. I took breaks in between. I came back with a fresh mind and I feel like it was good, but it was still long. You know, you may still feel a little defeated, but you gave yourself time and space. So overall, what I'm trying to say is don't be too strict on your creative process. Don't be too strict with it. Take breaks when needed. Don't be too strict with your perfectionism. Perfectionism is good to a certain extent, but if it hinders you, that's not healthy perfectionism. In my eyes, there are two kinds of perfectionism: is the hindrance one, the healthy and the unhealthy one, basically. The healthy one is the one that you're like, okay, I want to do something perfect, but it doesn't have to. If everything else perfect, but that one moment doesn't sound too perfect, that's fine, like fuck it. But if you have that unhealthy perfectionism, is like, I want everything to sound perfect and I'm not going to do anything with the song until it sounds perfect. That can hinder you from dropping your music, your art, your everything. It's the same with studying. So yeah, that was pretty much it. I just wanted to give it to you. If you're an artist, I just wanted to give it to you as a little insight, as a little message to how I managed to deal with things along the way and throughout those years. So now really I take breaks, and it's even more beautiful when I come back now to music. It's just like, okay, that's so sounds really, really good. Try it, because I'm telling you, it will sound so pretty. It will sound so beautiful. As soon as you take a break, may it be 3-4 weeks, may it be 2 months. If you need 2 months, hell, you know what I'm saying? Like, give yourself that time. It's not that bad. It will come back, but don't lose your vision. Just don't lose it. Just always keep in mind, like, you want to continue doing it. You want to continue doing it. And then you're going to get back to that headspace where you can actually do it again. So do it, you know? And when you come back, after however long you took a break for, you will notice your music and your art, it will be fire. At least this is how it is with me. Every time I come back with a fresh mind, with that little break that I took, with the little fresh air, and I come back, it's like, wow, I really have a talent for this. So yeah, this is really how it feels. It feels very empowering. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. It's your girl Paulina tuning out. Bye bye.